The Undocumented Railway Series, Book 4, Mid-Sodor Engines. Story 4, We Did What We Could. Falcon was cross. The boat train had officially been cancelled. "This is an absolute disaster," he cried. "Calm down, Falcon," Duke said sternly. "It's just another hurdle. We'll get through it." "Are you out of your mind, Grandpuff?" Falcon snorted. "No boat train means no passengers, and no passengers means no money. My train's been cancelled, your picnic train has been cancelled. Do you seriously expect the parliamentary to keep us above water?" Albert was offended. "Keep my train out of your mouth," he grunted. "Oh, but wait, the parliamentary isn't doing too well either. How many passengers did you have the other day, Albert? 8, was it?" Albert pouted. Falcon was right, and that pissed him off. Duke tried to get Falcon to calm down, but the little blue engine was in hysterics. "That's it then," he moaned finally. "We're finished! We're done! We might as well just lay down and die!" And he whooshed away. Tim, who was sat in the corner, was on the verge of tears. "This is all my fault," he wailed. "No, it's not, Tim," Duke said patiently. "Don't blame yourself." Interest in the boat train was already wavering. It probably would have happened regardless anyway," he finished, trailing off. He looked most upset. Are you okay, Grandpuff?" asked Albert. "Fine," Duke retorted, snapping out of his sadness. "Just someone see to it that Stuart has a word with Falcon. He'll get him to calm down." He mournfully rolled to the back of the shed. Tim and Albert gave each other worried glances. They had never seen Duke so unhappy. Everything seemed to be falling apart for Duke. In his 55 years of running this railway, he'd never seen such chaos and panic. He tried to keep up his "we'll do what we can" motto, but morale was at an all-time low. It seemed everyone else was ready to give up. Summer was most dull. It was very hot and dry, yet hardly anyone used the railway. Only a few services were ran a day. The rest of the traffic was all goods. Usually, Albert, Jim and Tim were cooped up in the shed, while Duke, Stuart and Falcon took care of the line alone. The 3 tank engines would often find themselves becoming very bored. 1,208, Jim said one day completely out of nowhere. "That?" Albert asked, completely baffled by the sudden announcement. "There's roughly 1,208 bricks making up this shed," Jim replied. "Fascinating." "How is that in any way fascinating?" Albert snorted. "I don't know, it's just cool." "You should try the sleepers next," Stanley's voice called from behind the shed. The little engines all jumped at this. The pumping engine had been there for what felt like so long, they had forgotten he was even back there. "Do we see anything?" Tim whispered to the others. "Of course not," Albert grunted. "We shouldn't bother with the likes of him." "Why not?" the voice behind the shed answered. "Ain't we all in the same boat?" "Ha! We are nothing like you," Albert retorted. "We are still useful for one thing. You're just some, how you say, sitting duck." "Oh really? Because from where I'm, sitting, I'd say that it seems the railway has forgotten about you. Duke and the others get all the work now, while y'all get left with the scraps." Heh, it's funny. All them years of acting like you were better than me. Now look what's become of you. "Ugh, shut up," Jim grumbled. "Your funnel must be jealous of the amount of exhaust spilling out your mouth." "Heh, y'all know that I'm right. Welcome to my world, boys. Enjoy your eternal isolation." The 3 engines all went quiet. Tim was beginning to panic. "He's right, lads," he whimpered. "It's the end of the line for us, and I'm not being metaphorical here. We're doomed." We'll be okay, Tim," Albert stuttered, trying his best to put on a brave face. "You know what Stanley was like." "Aye, always stirring up trouble," Jim added. "No need to listen to him. We'll be fine." Jim was wrong. They would certainly not be fine. Things continued to remain stagnant. The line to Pilgord Road was hardly used now, and the engines began to look most unkept. Even as summer turned to winter and Christmas arrived, things remained relatively the same. As New Year's came and went, it was clear something needed to be done. One cold January day, the manager called for everyone to come inside of the shed. All 6 engines were crowded in, Jim, Tim and Albert on the far side by the back wall, with Duke, Stuart and Falcon standing in the doorway. Just about every person who worked on the railway was there too. huddled together in the centre of the sheds. In the middle of it all was Mr. Abraham. Next to him stood some sort of easel-like thing, with a stack of paper taped atop it. The front page read, "The Future of the Mid-Sodor Railway." "Gentlemen," Mr. Abraham called to his engines and employees, "as some of you may know, things haven't exactly been, great lately." "Tell me about it. I haven't had a shift in over a month," Albert's driver called out. "Yeah, and I'm still waiting to be paid my wages for the last few months," an angry workman added. "I've got a wife and 7-year-old daughter at home, you know." Yes, I understand. All shall be explained in this presentation. Thought it would be good for the engines to be here for this. That way we'll all be in the know, and we don't have to worry about any, nasty surprises. Worried glances from just about everybody followed that statement. "Right," Mr. Abraham boomed as he produced a large metal rod and pointed it at the paper. "Let's get into the future of the Mid-Sodor Railway. First off, we're doing a bit of rebranding. From this day forth, we shall no longer be the Mid-Sodor Railway. We shall be the Mid-Sodor Mineral Railway." As he finished his sentence, he pulled the large sheet of paper away, revealing the next page underneath. It was the railway's new name and emblem printed on it. Nobody really knew what to think of this. It was such a minor and seemingly random change. But Mr. Abraham wasn't done. We're also doing a bit of downsizing," he went on. "To start with, we're closing the stretch of line from Cosnay Arwin to King Ory's, also known as the Mountain Road. It's just become a waste of money, what with nobody wanting to go to Pilgudred anymore. It just needs to go." Everyone was too stunned to speak. They couldn't believe what they were hearing. "Sir, with all due respect, the whole point of this railway was because the people of Pilgudred wanted rail access in the first place," Duke cried. "You can't just take that away." "I'm not taking anything away from anybody," Mr. Abraham chuckled. "No, they'd rather use the Fat Controller's fancy new electric railway instead. That would take a bus. There's really no point in it staying open, it just continues to hemorrhage money and not turn a profit. The whole thing is just a complete waste of time and resources. But hey, what else is new?" But he stopped that sentence as quickly as it started. He immediately regretted it. He'd completely gotten carried away. He coughed and recovered. "Excuse me, gentlemen. Lost myself for a sec there. But yes, the Mountain Road is to be closed." "But what about my station?" cried the Ofsted Road station master. "Same with mine," demanded the one from King Ory's Bridge. "I'm getting to that," Mr. Abraham interjected. He then took a second to gain his composure. This was the part he had been dreading. "Not only we're downsizing our railway, but we're also downsizing our team too. I've made a list of people and engines who will still continue to work with us, and those who shan't." He ripped to the next piece of paper. "Here's the names of everyone who will be staying." Everyone flicked through the list as fast as they could. They went over it again and again, hoping to see their own name on it. Duke was very relieved to see he, his driver and fireman, along with Falcom and Stewart, were all on the list. His eyes then glanced slowly to Jim, Tim and Albert. Their faces all went pale, and their eyes widened. Why are we not on the..." Tim murmured quietly. Mr. Abraham gulped before he spoke again. "Right, and here's everyone who will be unfortunately leaving us behind." He ripped to the next page. It was much, much longer than the previous. At least 60% of the people standing in that shed had their name on that damn list. And sure enough, right at the bottom, it read number 5 Albert, number 6 Jim, and number 7 Tim. It was all too terrible. Most of the staff began to get angry, others just stared in absolute shock, while some men even broke down crying. Everyone began to talk over each other at once. The noise was awful, as men and engines alike tried to get their voice heard. "Silence, please," Mr. Abraham boomed, but it did no good. "Gentlemen, please just calm down," he said louder, but everyone continued to ignore him. "Just shut up all of you," he snapped. Everyone went into stunned silence. "I know that this is very hard for all of you. Fear not. I will see to it that all of you will receive your last paychecks, as well as any other money the railway owns you, as quickly as possible. I understand this is going to be hard, but do you really? Half the world's already unemployed right now. What do you expect us to do?" Mr. Abraham had no rebuttal, so he just ignored the question altogether. "Are there any more questions?" "Yes, I have one," called Duke. Everyone turned to face the old engine. "Does His Grace know about this? Surely he wouldn't approve." The manager knew his engine wouldn't like this answer. He actually did approve of this, yes. He even helped me out with putting the list together. Huh, of course he did, Jim muttered. You can't trust these fat cats. Duke was cross. Don't talk about his grace in such a manner. He must have a good reason for this. What reason? A workman cried. What reason does he have to plunge my family into the unemployment line? That's enough, Mr. Abraham shouted. His voice was starting to give out now. That's all I wanted to say. Some coaches will have to be sold too, of course, but we'll deal with them later. For now, you lot best get your affairs in order. He then turned and walked with purpose out of the shed. Everyone continued to yell and shout at him as he walked off, but it was no use. Their time on the Mid-Sodor was done. Behind the shed, Stanley listened to all the chaos. To him, it was a great joke. Mr. Abraham staggered into the Arsdale station master's office and locked the door behind him. He threw the rod to the ground and headed over to the cupboard. He pulled out a small glass and a big bottle of scotch. He poured some into the glass, then just sort of stood there for a moment. Then he brought the bottle up to his mouth and clumsily began to gulp it down. Half of it poured down his chin and suit anyway. He brought the bottle down, placing it back on the counter, and wiped his chin with his sleeve. Today was by far the most difficult thing he had ever done in his whole career. Suddenly, there was a knock on the door. The manager sighed in frustration, thinking it was a former staff member trying to beg for their job back. What? He burst out. I beg your pardon, came the reply. Mr. Abraham's eyes widened and he scurried to the door and flung it open. There was Charles Henry Normanby, the current Earl of Sodor. His family had helped with funding the railway for generations now. Mr. Abraham felt very embarrassed. This was the last person he wanted to see at this moment. Charles Normanby walked into the office and sat down on the opposite side of the desk. I take it you've told them, he inquired. Yeah. Mr. Abraham sighed feebly, pouring the old man a drink too. It's a shame, the Earl sighed, shaking his head. If my grandfather was alive to see this, well, he'd be going mad. What is there to do anymore? Mr. Abraham grunted. Railway's going under. This is basically the final nail in the coffin. God knows what will happen now. You shall keep on going, His Grace replied sternly. I shall not let my railway close. Not in my lifetime anyway. Your men will be paid off, I'll make sure of it. And once they are, you and whatever you have left of your workforce will get through this strife together, he finished grandly. Mr. Abraham was impressed. He felt invigorated. By the way, Archibald, you need to have a bath. You stink of whiskey and desperation. That night, Jim, Tim and Albert were all talking over each other. Nearly 14 years of service to this railway, all gone just like that, Albert almost shrieked. When my old tramline was electrified, I thought it was it for me, Tim wept. This railway gave me a second chance. I can't believe I'm losing a second home. Didn't the manager give him and Jim similar names because he genuinely couldn't think of another one? Falcon whispered to Stuart. Stuart gave him a look and Falcon subsided. I've worked on 4 different railways in my time, Jim sighed. Learned to never get too attached. When I passed the 3-year mark here, I thought, well, I guess this is my home. He then sighed heavily. Of course it wasn't to last. A silence fell after that one. Stuart, Falcon, and even Duke felt incredibly guilty. I'm sorry, Falcon said sadly. What are you sorry for? Jim grunted. It wasn't your choice. Duke thought for a moment. Sometimes, leaving places that you care about is just a part of life, he said slowly. I've seen many different engines come and go. Jerry, Little Giant, Jennings. All good engines. How is that meant to make us feel any better? Albert snorted. What I'm trying to say is, most of them went on to bigger and better things. New home, new friends, new opportunities. It may be the end of this chapter of your lives, but it'll be a start of a new one. I'm sure you'll all have many more adventures going forward. The 3 tank engines smiled slightly. They were still sad and rather afraid, but they felt significantly less helpless. That's a positive way of looking at things, said a voice. The engines looked over as Mr. Abraham entered the shed. Albert, Jim and Tim all glared daggers at him. If looks could kill, the man would have been eviscerated on the spot. Look, he began, I'm really sorry to do this to you lads. I really am, okay? Duke and the others are in better condition, you see. In better condition? Jim scoffed. Jim, you're literally due for a new boiler next year. I'm sorry lads, but I genuinely don't have the money for them sort of things right now. I'm afraid this is just the way things are at the moment. It's nothing personal at all. The engine's glare softened. It helped to have the full picture, but it still hurt to hear. How long do we have, monsieur? Asked Albert after an awkward silence. 1 month from now, Mr. Abraham replied. You three, as well as the bogey coach stock, will go on sale. We'll have a load of people come to the yards and have a look at you all. You mean my beautiful bogey coaches are going as well? Cried Falcon. Yes, Falcon. Afraid so, mate, Mr. Abraham sighed. No point keeping them on. We'll mostly be doing mineral work from now on. Jesus, Tim muttered uncharacteristically. He still couldn't believe what he was hearing. Mr. Abraham gave an awkward nod and sadly left the shed, leaving the engines in peace. It's nice to see where your priorities lie, Falcon, Jim said sarcastically. Eh? Falcon was confused. Oh, my beautiful coaches. I was in shock. I'm still sad about you not leaving too, Before Falcon could fully finish his sentence, Duke let out a loud, shaky and pained sigh. The engines were very taken aback. Stuart thought he was going to cry. Are you okay, Grandpuff? Yes, Duke replied shortly, trying to regain his composure. Let's just get some sleep, you lot. Busy day tomorrow. I think sleep is going to be hard to come by, Albert muttered sadly. That month seemed to fly way too quick for the little engines. It wasn't long before the yards would be open to the public, and all sorts of different people from all over had come to check out the engines and coaches. The poor boat coaches didn't have much luck. We could turn this into a summer house, eh, love? An old man said to his wife. This would make for a killer tool shed, grinned a young man. I suppose the nature trail could do with a new outhouse, pondered a groundskeeper with a big bushy beard. An outhouse? Snorted the coach. The 4 once luxurious coaches were beyond words. The 3 tank engines were having much better luck. Many people crowded around them, making notes and murmuring to each other. Yes, he might do, they would say, or no, he's not the one. The engines tried to put on a brave face, but they were most anxious. Suddenly, Albert heard a voice with a rather familiar accent. They have an engine from France too, eh? How interesting. He looked around and locked eyes on a man with a smart red suit nearby. Tout français? He asked. Oui, replied the man. Albert grinned and soon began speaking away to the smartly dressed man in his native language. It wasn't long before they were laughing and joking away with each other. Jim gave a small smile and looked over to Tim. It looks like Albert's made a friend, he joked. Now all we need to do is find one of our own, chuckled Tim. No sooner had Tim said that, a man stepped alongside Jim. Excuse me, he called to the green engine. Jim looked over in surprise. Hello, he said. You alright? Yes. You're a Skylark, right? I am. Oh, wonderful. The man smiled. I'm from South Africa, you see. We've had many of your siblings working around our parts. Oh, aye, I know, said Jim. We were quite popular over there. I've never been myself, though. I worked in Scotland to be all life before coming here. Would you like to go there? Come again? I own a small gold mine railway, the man went on. We have a number of tender engines running the line, but we are in need of a tank engine to shunt around the mines. I think you'd be perfect. And, he said this last part quietly, we do need an older engine to keep them in order. Jim was quite excited. However, he was a little worried. Well, thank you, sir, but, the fair warning, sir, I am in need of a new boiler. Not to worry, business has been booming, so we can always find you a new one. Well then, yes, I'd love to, Jim smiled excitedly. Tim was happy for his friends, but he couldn't help feeling left out. Fortunately, he wouldn't be for long. 2 men in black suits stepped over. One was bald and wore a pair of sunglasses, while the other, a tall man with a big moustache, wrote in a notebook. He might need some regauging, but he's perfect size, said the man with sunglasses. Agreed the man with the moustache. Already has skirting too, the other continued. He should be perfect. Hello, Tim stuttered. Where are you guys from? The bald man took off his shades, revealing his eyes. They were stern, but They also seemed friendly. "We're from Boxford City Council," he told Tim. "We're looking for more trams to help on our tramway. Unfortunately, new trams are expensive, so we're buying second hand." "Oh well, it'll be more like throwdown with me," Tim murmured. "You seem in good condition overall. Some parts may need replacing here and there, but it shouldn't be an issue. Hey, Roger." Tim gave them both an awkward smile. He was still definitely anxious, but he couldn't help but feeling a bit excited. Arrangements were soon made, paperwork was filed, and before long, Albert, Jim and Tim were no longer mid-soda engines. Albert was to go to an estate railway in France. Jim was to go to the gold mine railway in South Africa, while Tim was going to the Boxford tramway on the mainland. Their last night was emotional, one of excitement but also sorrow. Falcon and Stuart were set to deliver the 3 engines to the harbour that following morning, but there was one question on everyone's mind. "Are you coming tomorrow, Grandbuff?" Albert asked hopefully. Everyone turned and looked at Duke. He had been rather quiet the whole night. He looked around the shed awkwardly. I've got a train around that time, I think. So do it later," Falcon smirked. "I couldn't do that," Duke snorted. "We need all the money we could possibly get right now." "But Grandpuff, they'll be leaving tomorrow," Stuart cried. "It's fine, Stu," Jim sighed. He was very disappointed, but it was understandable. "We see what you mean, Grandpuff," added Tim sadly. "You have to do what you have to do." Eventually the mood shifted to a slightly more positive one. The 6 engines spent the rest of the night reminiscing and telling jokes. Duke, however, was still rather quiet. Truth be told, he was feeling a very strange feeling. One he tried his best to ignore, but it loomed over him. He felt the same next day. He rolled down the line with his train of lead, hissing gloomily as he puffed along. "What's wrong, Duke?" his driver asked. "Have all these new changes been getting to you?" "No," Duke lied. "Of course not. It's a very tiring day today is all." "You know, it's okay to feel upset about Albert, Jim and Tim leaving," his driver told him. "I'm not that upset," Duke snorted. "Engines come and go all the time. It's nothing new for me." "That may be true, but not all of them were around as long as those 3, the driver pointed out. "It's natural to be a little bit upset, Duke. You shouldn't keep your feelings bottled up." Duke didn't have a rebuttal. His driver was right, even if he couldn't say it himself. "You're going to really regret it if you don't see them off," the driver continued. I know. But it's not like we'll get there on time anyway," Duke grumbled. "We still have more trucks to collect from Farquhar Road." "They can wait," his driver laughed. "Let's get to the harbour as quickly as we can." "But that would never suit his grace," protested Duke. "And not saying a proper goodbye to your family is suiting his grace, is it?" Duke thought for a moment. He sighed as it dawned on him what he was about to do. He was going to break the rules. He accelerated down the track, whizzing along as fast as he could. As he dashed by, people would stop and stare to see their steady old Duke going way beyond the speed limit. He went straight past the block post leading towards Farquhar Road mines. The signalman wasn't expecting Duke yet, and so the points weren't even set. She got the shock of her life as Duke rocketed past, heading towards the harbour. "What's Duke doing here so early?" she yelled. "Why is he going the wrong way?" But before she could even think about jumping up and waving her red flag, Duke was already long gone. Meanwhile, the 5 tank engines were all at the harbour. Albert and Jim were to be transported by boat, while Tim would go on a goods train on the Fat Controllers Railway. He'd already been placed on a flat truck, while Albert was just being lifted up by the crane. "Looks like this is it for me and Zodo. It was so nice to work here. I shall miss this place." "As will I," agreed Tim on his flat truck. "It's such a shame Grandpuff couldn't be here," Stuart sighed. "Nah," Falcon grunted. "You know old Grandpuff. He's never been one for emotional goodbyes." But then they heard a loud whistle. Duke suddenly came charging in, his line of trucks trailing far behind him. He skidded to a stop right between Stuart and Falcon, and boomed up towards the crane carrying Albert. "You stop lifting up that engine at once!" The crane jumped and did what he was told. "Grandpuff!" Albert cried from high above. "You made it after all!" "Yes," Duke panted, trying to get his breath back. I just couldn't let you lot leave without saying goodbye." In truth, many engines have come and gone over the years. I should be used to this. And yet, you lot leaving has been the hardest of all. Oh, Grandpa, Tim said with a soft smile. You've always been there for us, said Jim. Without your help and guidance, I don't know how we would have survived these last few years. You were a great leader and a great friend. I shall miss you a lot, Albert called down. Duke smiled. He thought he was going to cry. Thank you, my friends. I wish you lot safe travels and the best of luck for all of your futures. This is very touching and all, the crane interrupted. But, can you lot wrap this up? This guy's starting to get heavy. Hey, I am not heavy, Albert grumbled. Duke chuckled. Perhaps you should get on that boat now, Albert. Albert murmured in agreement, and the crane slowly lowered him down into the boat. Albert gave his friends one last smile. His smiles were usually flashy and to show off, but this one was genuine. He was soon finally lowered out of sight. It gave Duke, Stuart and Falcon a quite chill, knowing that they would never see him again. It wasn't long until Jim was loaded onto his ship, and one of the big engines had arrived to take Tim away. It was over all too quickly. As the boats were towed out of the harbour and began to sail off far into the distance, Duke, Stuart and Falcon stayed at the harbour. They rolled right to the end of the dock and watched as the tramp steamers disappeared over the horizon. Ha! You're crying! Smirked Falcon as he saw a tear roll down Duke's cheek. Duke quickly recovered. So are you, he snapped back. Falcon gave a heavy, pained chuckle. Duke was right. He was. The three engines felt their responsibility deeply. They knew things were going to be hard, but they were determined to keep their railway afloat no matter what. They would do all that they could.